Good morning and welcome to Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. Let us begin with the headlines. Late President APJ Abdul Kalam's body is being flown to Delhi. A 7-day national mourning has been declared following his demise in Shillong yesterday. Final rites likely to be conducted in Rameshwaram. Special cabinet meeting called to mourn Kalam's death. Both houses of parliament are likely to make obituary references and adjourn. Nation plunges into mourning following the former president's death. President Mukherjee, Vice President Hamid Ansari and Prime Minister lead in paying tributes to the visionary. National Security Advisor slated to brief Prime Minister over the Gurdaspur terror attack. 4 police personnel, 3 civilians and 3 terrorists were killed in the 12-hour-long encounter on Monday. And US President Barack Obama praises Ethiopia as an outstanding partner in the fight against militant Islamists. Obama will be addressing the African Union today. Former President APJ Abdul Kalam passed away in Shillong yesterday evening. He was 84. Kalam was delivering a lecture at the IIM Shillong when he collapsed. He was taken to a hospital, but he could not be revived. A United Nations mourns the death of its beloved visionary.
A 7-day national mourning has been declared following the sudden demise of former President APJ Abdul Kalam. Kalam died last evening while delivering a lecture at IIM Shillong. According to reports, Kalam suffered a massive cardiac arrest during the lecture and was rushed to the Bethany Hospital, where he was put under observation in the ICU. Despite all efforts, the doctors could not revive him. He was declared dead at 7:45 p.m. yesterday. His death has plunged the nation into mourning. President Pranab Mukherjee has cancelled all his engagements in Karnataka and is rushing back to Delhi.
As President of India, Dr. Kalam was immensely popular and greatly admired. His warmth, humility, and simple ways endeared him to be one and all. Dr. Kalam will be long remembered for his passion for science and innovation.
Kalam's body was kept overnight at the Shillong Army Hospital and flown to Guwahati in the morning, from where it is being flown to Delhi. His last rites are likely to be performed at his birthplace in Rameshwaram in Tamil Nadu. Vice President Hamid Ansari condoled the death of a visionary whose life, he says, will remain an inspiration to millions.
देखिए, कलाम साहब की ज़िंदगी के 3 पहलू थे. पहले जबकि वो DRDO के हेड थे, जबकि उन्होंने डिफेंस साइंस के मामले में और ख़ास तौर पे मिसाइल प्रोग्राम के मामले में बहुत कुछ देश को दिया. दूसरा वो ये कि वो जब राष्ट्रपति थे देश के, तो उन्होंने वो एक लोग कहते थे पब्लिक राष्ट्रपति.
The Union Cabinet will hold a special meeting today to condole Kalam's death. Prime Minister, grieving Kalam's demise, says he has lost an unmatched guiding force.
अब्दुल कलाम जी के निधन के समाचार पूरे देश के लिए और विश्व की वैज्ञानिक आलम के लिए एक बहुत ही दुखद समाचार है. राष्ट्रपति के रूप में उनका कार्य, उनका जीवन, उनकी हर बात देश के लिए आज भी दिशादर्शक है.
Home Minister Rajnath Singh tweeted, Dr. Kalam's death is an irreparable loss to this nation. He has left a big void, hard to fill.
Contribution as a scientist, his contribution as a president was unparalleled. He's left a void for all of us. The whole of the country will mourn his death, and we'll all continue to remain inspired by him.
A big inspiration for the young, Kalam will be sorely missed for his relentless effort to guide the younger generation. One of his most memorable messages being, you have to dream before your dreams can come true.
Right, the entire nation is mourning the death of its former president APJ Abdul Kalam, who collapsed in Shillong yesterday during his lecture at IIM. Well, the mortal remains of APJ Abdul Kalam is being brought to Delhi right now, and last respects will be paid to the 11th president of India. Remember, he was called the people's president, and he was truly an inspiration to the young and old alike. Now, several leaders are paying tributes to the India's missile man. As you can see the visuals there, the army and also the politicians and the people across the nation are joining in the mourning which is happening as former President APJ Abdul Kalam passed away yesterday evening. Now, it is likely that the last rites of the former president will take place in Rameshwaram, which is his hometown. He was born into a very simple family in Tamil Nadu, and by sheer hard work, he rose to achieve the success that he has achieved. He was a president like no other. Now, a 7-day national mourning has been announced. Well, the nation is paying homage to former President APJ Abdul Kalam, who passed away yesterday late evening. Tamil Nadu government has declared a 7-day national mourning. Let's listen in to some of the reactions.
See, the country has lost a great man, a great human being, and a great visionary. And I think this is a very big loss for the country. He always thought, you see, about the young generation. And even his death, you will see that he was addressing the IIM students. It was completely, his life was meant for youth and, of course, for the nation.
अब्दुल कलाम साहब हमारे प्रेरणा स्रोत थे, प्रखर राष्ट्रभक्त थे और हिंदुस्तान ज्ञान विज्ञान और तंत्र विज्ञान का उपयोग करके शक्ति में कैसा रूपांतर हो, ये उनकी मिशन रहता था।
एक व्यक्ति राष्ट्रपति पद की गरिमा के साथ साथ जनता से कैसे जुड़ सकता है, इसलिए आज तक देश उनको इतने सम्मान से याद रखता है।
आने वाले दिनों में देश को उनकी मार्गदर्शन नहीं मिलेगा, ये सोच भी नहीं सकते हम लोग। कलाम साहब की मार्गदर्शन, कलाम साहब की प्रेरणा इस देश की करोड़ों नौजवानों को, करोड़ों देशवासियों को सदैव प्रेरित करते रहेगी।
All right, considered to be the people's president, one of the most popular presidents that India had, Kalam became the 11th head of state, and he occupied the post from the year 2000 to 2007. And the leaders cutting across the political spectrum are paying tributes to Kalam. And President Pranab Mukherjee and Prime Minister Narendra Modi described him as a people's president and also an inspirational leader who dedicated his entire life to the nation. A 7-day national mourning has been declared by the centre, and both Houses of Parliament are likely to make obituary references and adjourn as a mark of respect to Kalam's memory. It is likely that the Union Cabinet will meet today in New Delhi to condole Kalam's death and also adopt a resolution hailing his services to the nation. Former President, top scientist, Bharat Ratna, these are just some of the titles that come before the name of APJ Abdul Kalam, who died in Shillong yesterday. He collapsed in the middle of a lecture. He was talking to the students of IIM Shillong. He was born in 1931 in Rameshwaram in Tamil Nadu in a humble family. His father was a boat owner, and in fact, he also distributed newspapers at one time to support his family and his education. He graduated with physics from the Madras University. He went on to study aerospace engineering. He's called the Missile Man of India. The DRDO, ISRO Chief Scientific Advisor to the Prime Minister in 1992, the Pokhran 2 nuclear tests, he straddled them all. He was elected India's 11th president in the year 2002. As a president, he brought Rashtrapati Bhavan to the people, which earned him the tribute of People's President. And Abdul Kalam will be remembered especially for his engagement with the people, especially children. He was very fond of children, and he would love to talk to them. He would love to reach out to people. And even after his presidency, he delivered numerous lectures to the children. And also, the books that he wrote, India 20, and of course, Igniting Minds. Some of the words that he spoke have become children's favorite. He had said that if you want to shine like a sun, first burn like a sun. Indeed, he did. And he served as a president for 5 years from 2002, enjoying the support of both the BJP and the opposition Congress. Now, he was closely involved in country's civilian space program and military missile development efforts, which earned him the name of India's Missile Man. He worked as a scientist, as a science administrator, mainly at DRDO and ISRO, before he became the president of the country. He also played an important role in India's Pokhran 2 nuclear tests in 1998. Looking back at his life and career, we must agree that Abdul Kalam was a president like no other. He was an inspiration really for the country. He was unique, he was his own person. His twinkling eyes, smiling face, he was radiating with so much of energy, positivity. And he indeed embodied the new India story. Being born into a poor family in Tamil Nadu and rising by sheer force of education to become a missile scientist and then, of course, the president of the country. He passed away during a lecture at IIM Shillong. And he was to speak on the topic, making the world more livable. All right, we understand that the Union Cabinet will be meeting in New Delhi today to condole Kalam's death and adopt a resolution hailing his services to the nation. Let's get more on that story. Vishal Daya is joining us for more. Vishal, what are the updates that you can give us? Vishal, can you hear me? Vishal, the Union Cabinet is going to meet in New Delhi today to condole APJ Abdul Kalam's death and also adopt a resolution hailing his services to the nation. What are the updates? All right, we seem to be having a problem with the connection there, but we'll keep getting you update on that story. Remember, the mortal remains of former President APJ Abdul Kalam is being brought to Delhi today, where the last respects will be paid to the 11th President of India. He died on Monday after he suffered a massive cardiac arrest and he collapsed during his lecture at the IIM. Now, and with this, we'll take a very short break, but we'll continue with those updates. Stay with us.
government in New Delhi. New faces,
People are not investing because they are scared of your tax administration.
new thinking,
The auction process is a fair and good process.
You cannot have a one-size-fits-all reform policy.
for insights and perspective.
Judiciary should be more concerned about corruption within itself.
The Modi government slogan of अच्छे दिन आने वाले हैं. Soon the people's slogan will be हमारे पुराने दिन लौटा दो.
The biggest show on economic policy. Watch State of the Economy.
Welcome back after the break. Now the entire nation is mourning the loss of APJ Abdul Kalam. Let's get more on that story. Mr. SM Khan, who is the press secretary to late APJ Abdul Kalam, is joining us. Thank you, sir, this morning for joining us. Sir, now APJ Abdul Kalam's death is a great loss for the nation. And looking back at Mr. Kalam's life and death, in fact, career, we must agree that Mr. Kalam was a president like no other. And what an inspiration he was to the entire country, especially the youth of the country.
He was a great inspiration to the youth of the country. In fact, when he had become President of India, he had a mission that during his presidency he will meet at least 25 lakh students. And wherever he was going, he was ensuring this, that first he will address these students. And generally he preferred to address the students of 10+2 and undergraduate level, because he was of the view this is the right age where the students can be changed and he can work as a role model for them. So his passing away is a great loss to the nation, to the entire, in fact, not only the student community, but all the people, all the scientists, everybody, and he will be remembered always as a people's president. He was the first president who threw open Rashtrapati Bhavan for the people of India.
Yes, indeed. And also, Kalam was actually unique. He was his own person. He was always beaming with so much of positivity, so much of energy, his twinkling eyes. And what is important is that he embodied the new India story. He was born into a very poor family, and by his hard work, he rose to become the India's missile man and also then the president of the country.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. He always used to say that if you work hard, if you have a goal before you, if you work hard to achieve that goal in a mission mode, nothing can prevent this to happen. And everything will support you. You wish upon a star and nature will come to your help. So the background, to which religion you belong, to which caste you belong, from which region you come, what is your financial background or family background, he said it does not matter. He was always believing in this, and always in his address to the students, he always used to tell this: work hard and try to achieve your goal. Always dream and convert that dream into thought and action. So such was the man. In fact, he was such an inspiring, adorable figure that I don't think we can ever forget. I had the good fortune of working with him for 5 years.
Yes.
And one great thing about him was that he was a great human being. And he used to put us to a lot of comforts and work in a very independent and friendly atmosphere.
Mr. Khan,
he himself was a hard worker, workaholic.
Yes. Mr. Khan, you were closely associated with him. You were press secretary to him. How do you look at the conversations probably that you had with Mr. Kalam? He came across as a very positive person. What else would he tell you? Of course, he loved interacting with children, but some of the things that you can tell us with your own personal interaction that you have had with Mr. Kalam.
He was always very positive in everything. He was never negative. And he wanted to see India as a developed nation by 2020. He gave a vision document. In fact, he was working on this even before becoming President of India. And this was first time in the history of India that after becoming president, he made a presentation before the cabinet about his vision 2020. At that time, I remember Shri Vajpayee ji was the Prime Minister of India, and he said, I will tell all your ministers that how to achieve by 2020 a developed status for India. So throughout his life till his last breath, he worked for that. He wanted to see. Now it is the responsibility on all of us, all the government, the people, the institutions, to achieve his goal and to see that will be the correct tribute to this great son of India.
Right. And Mr. Khan, when we look at the tenure of Mr. Kalam as the president of the country from 2002 to 2007, of course, he was called the people's president. And what is interesting is that a president who is refreshingly free of political affiliation. He was an outsider, really, in politics, isn't it?
Yeah, he was never in politics. He was a scientist and he was chosen as president almost unanimously. And he said that he has to give scientific look to everything, even in politics. He always used to talk about development politics. He always used to tell senior political leaders that whatever may be your political differences, but when it is the question of nation, when it is the question of doing something for the nation, for the development of the country, you should all be united. And there should be a united face of the country. He always worked on that. He used to discuss with senior political leaders and always used to tell this to not only politicians, but to bureaucrats, scientific community and students, everybody.
Right, Mr. Khan, you stay with us. Right now, we also joined in by Mr. Gohar Raza, who's the scientist. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning. Mr. Raza, we were discussing about Mr. Kalam's contribution, especially as the president of the country. But of course, he was one of India's most eminent scientists. So when we look at the contribution of Mr. Kalam as the scientist, and of course, the missile man of the country, can you sum up in words as to what exactly he meant for the country?
See, Dr. Kalam was an amazing personality as far as his scientific contribution and technological contribution goes. It is immense. There's no other personality who has contributed so much in such a short time. He grew with ISRO.
Yes.
ISRO was an organization which was a nascent organization when he joined in the 60s. And this is the period when India is almost a persona non grata in the international arena, where other countries are refusing to give us technologies.
Yes.
Even very simple technologies, as Baba has quoted a number of times, that balloon technology was blocked by United States of America at one point of time. They did not give simple balloon technology because they said that it can have military implications. This is the period, this is the Nehruvian era where there is a determination to build the country, a determination to build infrastructure, a determination to build and excel in science and technology. This is the period when he enters into the arena. And with his determination and contribution at that time, he grows up with the organization. An organization grows up with a person like him. There were many amazing personalities in ISRO, and he was one of them. You realize that the technology is not to be learned from outside. It has to be developed here. And here are these young people who have determination to develop the most cutting-edge technology within the country. This is the era when bullock cart is being used to transport various components of these big projects.
Yes.
And he, as a team leader, was amazing. And everybody tells me who was during that period around him, that he was a very good leader and teacher.
In fact,
all
that is
through.
what I was about to ask you. The circumstances that you're really talking about, transporting of these, the parts of these big projects on a bullock cart at that time, the foreign countries are not giving us the technology. One man comes in. How was he able to enthuse and give so much of energy and so much of positivity in something which is actually looking very grim at that moment?
See, most of these young people at that time were very determined at one level, but they were also very hard-working people. When it was a project that had to be completed, it just had to be completed. And once the targets were set in ISRO, then everybody worked towards that, and there was no limit of time. You did not go home, and that was not something big. And Kalam Saab especially was most of the time in the laboratory. People used to say that he hardly goes home. And there were many there, but this was the culture which had shaped him. And therefore, without support from outside, without the literature even available to gain the knowledge, these people built the nation. Not only built ISRO. ISRO was one component of the bigger picture, a much bigger dream that they were seeing. And therefore, he was always committed to self-reliance.
Okay.
Self-reliance was
in
the
developing
motto.
Of indigenous technologies.
Indigenous technology, that we'll do it. We'll do it within the country. Let the world not give us technology. We'll do it within the country. And that remained with him till the last breath. This is exactly what he kept on telling the students with whom he interacted very often, even at home. Once I went to his house, and we were kept waiting, and the young ones were given the chance to interact with him first.
So typical of Mr. Kalam there.
That is typical of him.
Yes.
Because he knew, and most of the scientists in ISRO knew, that this is going to shape the nation. The younger generation has to be sensitized, because the older ones are shaped in a mold which becomes rigid over a period of time. These are the young ones who have to be molded, and future
Mr. Of course, sir, he's known as the missile man. Everybody knows about that. But very few people know that there are other things that he also did. For example, he, along with the cardiologist, he developed a low-cost coronary stent. He also designed a rugged tablet computer for healthcare in rural areas. So that is really interesting.
See, most of these scientists who were working in CSIR or in atomic energy or in ISRO were brilliant minds. That is one. And two, that they were often called upon to solve very mundane problems as far as their work was concerned. So somebody working at cutting edge is given an assignment or is excited by a problem that we need a tablet, or at one point of time there was a problem which was posed in 1962.
He had a very curious bent of mind as well. We'll just come back to you. I'll take a last question from Mr. Khan. Mr. Khan, he was known as the people's president. He was known as the missile man of the country. He was known to be very close to the youth, and he inspired. According to you, since you have had in fact, a very close sort of interaction with him, you worked with him, how would you remember him, and how do you think the nation now will remember him best?
I will remember, a nation will remember a personality who has really inspired the people of India in 20th century and in the 21st century. I think he was one of the most remarkable personality in India, a multifaceted personality, and people will always remember him as an outstanding scientist, visionary, statesman, and above all, a humanist. His mission was only to achieve by 2030 a developed status for this great nation. And you see he was active to the last moment because he was always moving. I met him just 4 days ago. I had a very long discussion which will always remain with me for about 40 minutes. He was talking about various things. He always used to say, whenever you do a thing, do things differently, leave a mark, whatever you do. So this was the person, I will always remember him as a person who really inspired me and lakhs of Indians.
Absolutely. He inspired you. In fact, he inspired the entire nation, especially the youth of the country. Thank you so much, Mr. Khan, for joining us. And thank you so much, Mr. Raza, for joining us this morning and sharing your views on that story. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, we are all at Rajya Sabha are also paying tributes to Mr. Kalam. We are joining the nation in paying tributes to him. And this is all in this edition of news. Thanks so much for joining us.